Next, I'd like to invite David Monkawa from Progressive Asian Network Action, otherwise known as PANA, and Save Our Seniors to speak about why the racist attacks against Asians are not just individual acts, but government-sponsored acts. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you, everybody, for being out here on a hot day like this. My name is David Monkawa. I'm the Progressive Asian Network Action. I was the former co-chairperson of Nikkei for Civil Rights and Redress, one of the organizations that successfully fought and won apology and redress and reparations for Japanese Americans thrown into concentration camps. So we hit them up for $2.1 billion, an apology to every single survivor, and $20,000 each. Not a bad haul for a decade. I wanted to talk a little bit about, like yesterday, I heard Joe's Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, yesterday. How many of you have heard of him? He said that China is the biggest geopolitical threat to the whole world. Dude, no? Joe, you gotta sign more stimulus checks. Man. Shut the fuck up. So what's causing it? You've heard a lot of speakers talk about the system. What is it? You know, the CEOs in Silicon Valley right now, they're scared to death of China getting a leg up and leading the next industrial revolution. They got artificial intelligence, 5G, robotics, they're way ahead. And they're doing anything and everything to make sure that China don't get up ahead.
That's right.
They're paying off Republicans and Democrats, campaign finance, and all that kind of stuff, getting them to do whatever they can. And that's why these things are happening the way they are. In fact, when you go back in history, all the vicious spikes periods, now people up here talked about the violence, and that's true, but don't just look at part of the chessboard, you gotta look at the entire chessboard. What was happening back then? The long depression of 1870s to 1880s, 90s, that was one of the worst spikes of anti-Asian violence ever. You know, during that period is when those Chinese folks were hung in Chinatown. 1882, that period, that's when the Chinese Exclusion Act was signed. 1885, the Rock Springs, Wyoming massacre, where 28 Chinese railroad workers were slaughtered. In 1887, the Hell's Canyon massacre, where 34 Chinese miners were slaughtered and taken for their gold. All of these things happened in that one period, that spiking period. That's a period, that long depression, 18,000 businesses went bankrupt. Hundreds of banks, 10 states went bankrupt. Jobs were scarce and Chinese were being scapegoated as taking away white people's jobs because they worked for next to nothing. Now in this period, you figure all the people that came over, all the Chinese, the majority got brought over by who? The railroads. Leland Stanford of Stanford University. Thomas Huntington of Huntington Park and Huntington Boulevard and Huntington Memorial Hospital. These are the people that brought the Chinese over. And at the same time, they're telling the U.S. public, along with all their journalists like William Randolph Hearst, they're telling everybody the Chinese are taking away your jobs at the same time that they're importing them over to work on the railroad and build the transcontinental railroad. Now, one of the things that they don't talk about, even up here, is how we fought back. You would think that Asians got their asses kicked all through history and we curled up to a fetal ball talking about love and pay, you know, love us and heal or something like that. But that ain't what we did. We defended ourselves with whatever means necessary. Sometimes we took up armed self-defense. Other times we had to hire bodyguards to go and get back our gold that was stolen. The professional bodyguards, we had to chip in. And other times we had to pass legislation with a whole bunch of other people. But at no time did we curl up to a fucking little ball and say, "Oh, please love us."
That's right.
you go up next, the Japanese-American internment. In the period leading up to that whole period, California big agriculture, their bankers like Wells Fargo and Bank of America, they allied with white supremacists, and they lobbied Roosevelt, lock up the Japs, lock up the Japs. We want to take their farmland, 640,000 acres of valuable farmland, all their assets, make up an excuse. They're terrorists, they're saboteurs, so after Pearl Harbor happened, Roosevelt locked up everybody. And in the camps, we fought back. There were all kinds of uprisings, all kinds of demonstrations. In Manzanar, a huge demonstration. 10 people were shot and killed. We fought back with stones and sticks. They brought out machine guns, and they brought out shotguns. And Jimmy Ito from Pasadena, 16 years old, shot in the back with a shotgun and killed. James Kanagawa, age 21, from LA, shot in the front and killed. And they tried to tell the camp guards that, hey man, he was shot in the front, not in the back. We formed unions, we had demonstrations, and we fought back. Only 30. Now, in that kind of situation, anti-Asian violence is the whole goddamn country. So you can't really quantify individual acts. In fact, at the street level, you know what they had? They had little cards. It says Jap hunting licenses. Millions and millions and millions of them. They were issued by Kiwanis clubs, Boy Scouts. They were issued by veterans organizations and restaurants. There are so many of them that nobody could keep track. That's the kind of atmosphere it was on the street. Only 30 years after that, you had the worst trade war situation during the 1970s and 80s. That was pretty bad. You know what happened then? Japanese cars were outselling American cars.
That's right. That's right.
People made up racist comments like rice rockets for Japanese cars. You remember that? People started boycotting Japanese cars, and you know what they had on the street? They used to have fundraisers for unemployed white auto workers. You pay $5, you get a sledgehammer, and you get to whack the shit out of a Toyota or a Honda. Now that's violence for you. And within that context, you know what happened? Evans and Nitz, two white unemployed auto workers. They took a baseball bat and bashed in Vincent Shin's head. Just like those people took a sledgehammer and was bashed in Toyotas. Now in that context, who were the culprits for so-called Asian hate? There ain't no Asian hate. There's anti-Asian corporate violence. That's what it is. Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler. They took the bat and bashed in Vincent Chin's head.
That's right.
So what I'm saying to you is that we Asians, we have a very proud history of fighting back. Most recently, Vietnamese folks in Galveston, Texas, when they were shrimp boaters and the economy was bad in Texas, the Klan started to attack them because, again, they were competitors taking away white people's jobs. Vietnamese people, they fought back. They killed one of the racists. They shot and killed him in self-defense. And when that happened, the Klan jumped all over them. They burned shrimp boats, they burned crosses on their lawns, and the Vietnamese fought back. They were able to get a civil suit to stop it for a little while. They prospered, and they lived, and today they're here, just like all of us. So remember, we have a proud history of fighting back. 150 years of it. Reach into the history of our parents, our grandparents, and our great-grandparents. That's where you'll find the answers of what to do. We should do today just like what they did last time. We need to protect our families and ourselves and defend ourselves. Number two, we need to ally with other communities of people of color, just like we did in the past. And number three, we need to say stop China bashing, stop the violence, and let's everybody unite. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. Thank you very much.
The people united
will never be
lesson. I love a militant history lesson, especially about fighting back.